And it's just, it doesn't really have a weakness in this shoe. The only thing it's lacking is that super foam, or yeah, some wow factor, but it doesn't really need that because testing's complete and the scores are in, and this is the full review of the Asics Noosa Tri 16. But before we get into it, and if you guys want to support this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with our quick spec, so this is coming in at an amazing price point. So it hasn't budged over the recent years, $220 here in Australia and $130 in the US. And it's still a super light package here, so especially for a training shoe. So on the website, it actually says 8.2 ounces, 233 grams. Now my size is coming way under that, so almost an ounce under that. So this thing is absolutely, like, it's feather light, which is just amazing in a training shoe. And in the stack height here, we got 34 in the rear, 29 in the front, and that's going to give us a 5mm drop. Now in the scores, for the price, as I said, it is an excellent price point. It hasn't moved. It's going against the trend of all other shoes. I love it, 9 out of 10. And in the weight, so I think Asics are actually underselling themselves, or what they put on their website, because the shoe actually weighs, or it comes in way lighter than what they say. You can't really beat this, 9.5 out of 10. And in our upper here, so material they're using is an engineered mesh, very light, very breathable. It's not going to hold any water or sweat, and that's just what you want, especially in a shoe that's designed for triathlons. Now, pretty solid heel counter here. It's got a bit of a solid heel cap there. They've gone away with the Achilles flare. Now they've got a pull tab on the rear of the shoe, and they've also got a pull tab on the tongue as well. Padding wise, a plush amount of padding here. It's very surprising to see, especially on a shoe that is so light, but that does an unbelievable job of really holding the foot nice and secure in this shoe. Now the tongue is really thin. It's got a couple of pads on it just to take that laces pressure away, and it's also made out of like a wetsuity type material. There's this really big hole in the middle of the tongue, which I still really don't know what it's for. Maybe for aesthetics or ventilation, or to drain the shoe. I'm not actually too sure. Lacing system, pretty standard. They've got lace loops in the middle of the shoe here that sort of add to the lockdown of the shoe, but the lockdown, excellent, no issues at all. In the fit, they've fixed up the sizing issue from the previous version. Now in the length, it's true to size, and in the toe box, I'd actually say it's quite generous, which I really like. Build quality, it's Asics, it's always excellent, and no issues with the step-in comfort. And scores wise, there is not too much not to like here in the upper, except probably the looks of it. My son told me that it actually looks like a bird pooped on the shoe, but I'm not too fazed by the looks. If I could make one improvement of this upper, I'd probably change the material of the tongue and make it slightly longer. But apart from that, very happy here, 8.5 out of 10. And in our outsole, so it's good to see that this version of the Noosa has been updated with the brand new grip, the Asics grip. Now this rubber is amazing. It is excellent in the wet, excellent in the dry, and it's pretty hard wearing too. Good rubber coverage on the shoe, so pretty much the entire forefoot, and they've come right down either side of the shoe and in the high areas of the back. Also, what you're going to find on the bottom of the shoe, they've got a bit of a groove here. It's not super deep, but a bit of a groove there, just to add a little bit of softness to the ride. But overall, man, it is hard to fault this outsole. It's hard to fault this Asics grip. It's amazing. It really complements the shoe. It adds some rigidity to the shoe, I think, which this shoe needs because of its geometry. No issues here, 9.5 out of 10. And in our midsole, very simple design. What's going on here, the foam that they're using is just one big slab of that FF Blast Plus. So that's very nice, good amount of bounce to it, good amount of softness to it as well. Now there's no plate in this shoe, so it's pretty flexible, as you can see there. I've had a fair few runs in this one now, so it is softening up quite a bit, but there's still a little bit of rigidity there and a bit of snap back, as you can see there. Now geometry wise, this is where this shoe comes into its own. It has got a 4-foot rocker, and this rocker is actually, it's in a really nice spot. So it's further back in the shoe, but it's actually quite steep and quite aggressive. So for me and my foot strike, it is very easy for me to get onto this rocker no matter how fast I run. But it's a very simple design, very simple package, but very effective. And in the ride, so exactly like my first impressions, it is effortless. So this is probably the most easy running shoe I think that I have ever tested. Whatever, I think they've tweaked where this rocker is, but no matter how fast I run or how I run, it's so easy for me to get onto this rocker. And every step that I take just feels like I'm just on the rocker and my foot is just rolling through effortlessly. So just so easy. It's still very, very smooth, so it's not slappy. The outsole is a little bit, it's a little bit loud, but it's definitely not slappy. It's just, yeah, it's just so smooth, so easy to run in. The foam, it was a little bit firm out of the box, but it softened up quite nicely. Now, in the softness department, it's not a soft and squishy shoe, but then again, on the other end, it's not a firm and responsive and a poppy shoe. It sits somewhere in the middle. There's a nice amount of softness, and then as you roll through your foot strike, it gives you a nice amount of bounce back. So it's not a responsive bounce back, so you don't sink into the foam. You don't sink into the foam just a little bit and it shoots you out nice and fast, and it doesn't sink you in. You don't sink right into the foam and it pushes you out nice and slowly. It's somewhere in between, so it is in this really nice spot. And I said the foam is firm enough so you can actually feel the rocker, because in some shoes they might have a big aggressive rocker, but the foam can be too soggy and it sort of takes away the feeling of that, but it doesn't happen in this shoe. What it does like though is magic, so it doesn't have any super foam in it, so you're not going to jump in this shoe and feel bounce and wow factor. It doesn't need that. The magic in this shoe is in the geometry. It's just so easy to run in. I love the ride, 8.5 out of 10. Best shoes for me, so pretty much anything that you throw at it. It is such a versatile shoe. It's totally fine to jog in. Can it go fast? Yeah, you can go fast in this shoe just because it is so light. It feels great. It's so easy to tick the legs over, go up to threshold pace. As I said before, it's just going to lack wow factor, so don't jump in this shoe thinking it's going to be good to go and you're going to get some wow factor or crazy energy return during your race. It's all in the rocker. It's a very efficient shoe and it's cushioned enough to use on your long runs as well. And I think this shoe is going to work best for obviously neutral runners, but I also think runners that have more of a high cadence or some lighter runners. So if you're a really big guy, or if you hit the ground really hard, or you're really heavy heel strike, you may squish this foam down a little bit too quickly, or you may not get all the benefits of the rocker. So some other options out there if you are considering the Noosa. First one that's coming to mind is the New Balance Rebel V4. Again, another super light, feather light shoe. It's not as rocket as this shoe, but it is a little bit softer. I've got a comparison review between those two shoes if you want to go check out that. Also going to mention the Hoka Mach 6. So again, very light shoe, slightly heavier than this one, not as rocket as well, but it's probably a little bit softer than the Noosa. But in Australia, much more expensive than this shoe. And the last one I'm going to mention is the Saucony Kinvara. So if you are a more of a naturalist type runner, you like road feel, that is another super light shoe that comes in at a great price point. So checking out those scores, totaling those up, we have a new leader here. So the top scored on the leaderboard, it's higher than the Alpha Fly, it's higher than the Metaspeed Sky Paris. Why? It's because it costs $220. It's got a great price point. It's so light. It's fun to run in. It's got great grip. And it doesn't really have a weakness in this shoe. The only thing it's lacking is that super foam or, yeah, some wow factor, but it doesn't really need that because the geometry for me is just so good. It's such a versatile shoe that is affordable. So pretty much anyone can get their foot in a pair of these. That's why it's got those great scores. That's why it's taking top spot. And obviously, because of that, it is a definite buy from me. So my worry is for this is how do Asics make this shoe any better? Well, hopefully they don't change too much because there is not too much wrong with it. If I could probably do one thing to it, as I said, I'd probably make the tongue a little bit longer. And maybe if they added just a smidgen of turbo foam in this shoe, but kept the price point where it is, then this shoe would be absolutely dangerous. But anyway, guys, that is it from me. Amazing shoe, #1 spot on the runner leaderboard. Interested to hear what you guys think about this. If you guys haven't run in this shoe yet, or are you planning to buy it? Let me know in the comments below. And obviously, if you want to know how this compares to anything else, just ask. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.